Alright, y'all, hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I want to say thank you for watching. My name is Amber Stewart. I am the owner of the Stew Project, where I help people maximize their living potential by simply taking an emphasis on wellness. More specifically, I work with individuals who deal with chronic stress, anxiety, or depression, and I help them get rid of the mental blocks that are holding them back so they can live the life of their dreams in a body that they love. Now, getting into it, I know last week I was talking about how I am working on finishing the Old and New Testament Bible in, hold on, there's a hair on my face. Ugh. Anyway, I'm working on finishing the Old and New Testament. Why is it in, I see it in my peripheral. Anywho, I'm working on finishing the Old and New Testament Bible in 365 days. And so I am on the story of Isaac's sons. You know, he had twin boys, Esau and Jacob. And so Jacob was a trickster. He ended up stealing his older brother, even though they're twin brothers, his older twin brothers, Esau's birthright and his blessing from his daddy. Now, it has been said that Jacob was a trickster, but when I was reading the Bible, like, you know, his mama kind of got him into that trickster life, because she was the one that told him, because at first when he was about to steal the blessing of his brother, he wasn't sure he should do it, but his mama pushed him into it. So when it comes to like being tricked and being a trickster, sometimes those traits are passed down from the family. And so I'm gonna get on some other traits that are passed down too from this story. But anywho, getting back into Jacob being this trickster. Now, I love this story because it really shows the power of karma in the Bible, because although Jacob was a trickster, he stole the birthright and his older brother's blessing as well. He was tricked also. So he tricked his brother out of his birthright and his blessing. But when he got older and he was ready to marry his wife, Rachel, remember, he went to some city to where his dad's brother was, and met his kinfolk, and he saw Rachel, was like, oh, Rachel's so pretty, yes. And so his dad, Rachel's father, was like, okay, yeah, you know, you can marry Rachel, just work for me for 7 years. And so when the 7 years was up, Rachel's dad tricked Jacob and gave him his oldest daughter instead. And so since Jacob loved Rachel so much, he had worked another 7 years for Rachel. And so the law of karma works perfectly, because the same way that Jacob tricked his brother, he was tricked into working longer for the things that he wanted as well. So I just thought that was really interesting, because, you know, when you go in life doing things, you can't expect, sure, you're going to get blessings, but you can't expect the world or life or God to flip that stuff back on you the same way. So the same way Jacob was tricking his brother, he was tricked too. Now, going on to Jacob being a trickster, that trickster mentality actually, mind you, now Rachel, she was a trickster too. Now I'm gonna get into it in a story, but anyway, so Jacob's trickster mentality ended up working on his behalf, simply because when it came time for him, because he worked for his father-in-law for 10 years, well, for 20 years basically, 14 years just to get his 2 wives, and then I want to say another 6 years just so he can get the livestock so he can go back home, because God was like, Jacob's time to go home. But his father-in-law was like, like, I see that you are blessed by God, so I'm gonna make sure you stay with me however I can, so you won't leave me, because I am blessed because of you being blessed by God. And so Jacob had to use his trickster mentality to get out of that by by manipulating the way that he was breeding his livestock, or his father-in-law's livestock. And so he had to get like a special, he like broke up some tree plants to make and whenever he mated the strongest goats, he did it so that they would come out speckled. So it was like, okay, so whatever speckled livestock are born, I'll keep those and you'll just keep the regular ones. And so anytime, so you'll know that I'm not stealing your stuff, I'm not taking anything from you, like everything copacetic. And so that's one of the ways that his trickster mentality worked for his behalf, because he ended up growing his livestock using that trickster mentality to build himself up. And if it wasn't for him using his trickster mentality, then he would not been able to follow God's calling for him to go back home. And so back when I was saying that Rachel was a little bit of a trickster herself, when Jacob was getting ready to leave to go home, he snuck away in the middle of the night and just took his kids and took his family. And so he did that without letting his father-in-law know. And so that's being trickster. And so when he left, Rachel stole her father's gods, like his gods, totems, or I can't think of the word, but like his little figurines or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, she stole those. And so when Jacob's father-in-law went after them, God warned him, like, hey, come correct, because that's my kid, I'm looking after him, he's blessed, so don't get cursed on you. Because one of the blessings that God gave to Jacob, and actually Abraham, I believe it was Abraham, and the blessing was passed on, was that I will curse anybody that curses you 7 times. You will be blessed. And so if anybody blesses you, they'll be blessed too. And so that's one of the warnings that God gave to his father-in-law. And so when Jacob's father-in-law caught up with him, he was like, yo, let me search the camps to see where my gods are, because you stole them. And Jacob's like, I ain't steal nothing. But he didn't know that Rachel stole it. That's why I said Rachel was a trickster too. Which is probably why he loved it so much. He's like, oh, you feisty like me. And so I guess that's why he loved her so much. But anywho, she was doing her trickster ways and hid under them so that they wouldn't be found. And she lied to her daddy and was like, Dad, don't think I'm disrespecting you. I can't stand up. When he was searching her tent, she was like, I can't stand up because I'm on my period. Now, she wasn't really on her period. She was sitting on the god totems that she had stolen from him, because one of the things that Jacob had said was, if you find your gods in my camp, whoever stole from you, they will be alive no more. And so, that just saved a whole lot of heartbreak from Jacob, because he would have been sentencing his favorite wife to death. And I just thought that was really interesting, because even though I know we all go through our life where we have like these ascension processes where we go from being of the world and we're living in sin and we have these bad habits. And so when we come into the truth, when we decide to follow our divine path and follow our Creator, we may want to take away all the things that made us who we were before. But sometimes those bad habits, like those trickster mentalities, can work for your favor. And in the case of Jacob, the trickster mentality that he had for his brother, stealing the birthright, stealing the blessings, he had to use those same trickster, manipulative tactics when his father-in-law was trying to keep a hold on him. So I just said that all to say is, don't think that everything that you went through when you were in your past, when you were going through sin, when you were sinning, when you were like in your bad years, don't think that those didn't serve a purpose. Everything that you've went through, all the things that you've gone through in the past, they are there for a purpose. And you just have to wait and use discernment on when it's time to use those purposes, or when it's time to use those gifts. Now, another thing that I realized when I was reading these chapters in Genesis was how, because nowadays we be sitting here talking so much about how women can trap guys and be having babies out of spite and doing all this and that just to with the guy, just to have multiple kids and going back and forth and being petty with other women. Now the story with Rachel and Leah, that just lets me know that it has been going on for years, because Rachel and Leah, there was Leah was the doe-eyed older sister of Rachel, so she wasn't as pretty as Rachel, and Jacob did not love her, and so God saw that she was not loved, and so he made it possible for her to conceive before Rachel. And so for years, I think she had like either 3 or 5 sons, I think 3 sons, before Rachel had hers. And so basically they went back and forth, they got their maids and had Jacob. I think this is so funny, because I was like, dang, they just like using Jacob as like a sperm donor, like. And so there was one instance where oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of it. It was like, it's some weird name, like Comstacks, Comdrakes,
Mandrakes, y'all.
So her son had picked them in the field or whatever, and so who is it? I believe it was Leah. Leah went over to Rachel, was like, oh, let me have some of them. And so Rachel was like, oh, so you gonna take my husband and have my kids, and so you gonna have my cum drakes too? And so Leah was like, all right. I think it was something, it was one of the two. So anyway, I might be mixing it up, but I'll correct it when I edit the video. But anywho, Rachel was like, all right, so you know what, if you give me some of them, I'll let you have Jacob for the night. And so she said okay. So Leah gave her some of the
mandrakes.
So then she went over to Jacob, was like, all right, you coming to me tonight, come on, I bought you. That's what it said in the Bible. Now this is the New International Version, so I didn't read the King James versions, but in the New International Version, it said Leah went up to Jacob and was like, I bought you, so you sleeping with me tonight. And she ended up having a kid after that. I just said that whole entire story, because like, it has been going on throughout time that women have been using men as like, like the horses, like breeding horses, just to spite other women. And so like, you may think that, oh, what a horrible time we're in now, women have stooped to a whole new low. No, it's been low. It's been low since Bible time. Since the beginning of man. We've been petty since the beginning of man. I just thought that was so hilarious. So yeah, that was just a petty Bible moment. And yeah, that was just, there's nothing inspirational about that at all. I just thought that was hilarious. So I hope this helps. I hope that you are able to look back at your life and look at your past and look at the things that you're probably ashamed of, and just take into accountability, like those things that you were once ashamed of, like how can you use the traits that got you through those shameful moments to your advantage in your time of life right now. I mean, because you may be trying to hold back and hide a part of yourself that was in your past, but the more you embrace it and accept who you are, the more you can use those aspects of yourself to help you shine brighter. I hope this helps, and I had to reel it back in because I was just getting in pettiness. But if you like this message, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you are interested in coaching from me, There are links in the description box for more details, and I will talk to you later.